welcome to another podcast by Cohda Wireless. I'm Andrea Ash, Head of Marketing here at Cohda Wireless, and I'm joined today with Paul Gray, our CEO, and Bern Lubin, our VP of Business Development. Paul and I held a podcast earlier this year, time with the launch of our new product, the MK6. And now that we have Bern in town, we wanted to get Bern, you a part of the conversation, and talk as a follow-up to the launch of MK6, and also to provide the market our current thoughts of what's happening in the industry. So starting with you, Bernd, now that we've had the MK6 in the market, focusing on connected vehicles and connected roads and highways, what can you share with the audience on how the MK6 is fitting into this marketplace?
Yeah, thanks for being here, Andrea. First of all, I have to say that the success of the MK6 is absolutely fantastic. We had some expectations on the MK6 successes, but all over the places across the States, in the US and Europe, as well in Asia Pac, the reception of the MK6 was very great.
What would you say are the leading factors of why people are responding so positively to the MK6?
I would say there are a couple of aspects which make the difference. First of all, we have the latest technology you can find on the market, like a 5G modem, like a CV2X capability, dual mode capability with DSRC. So it's the latest and greatest you can find on the market combined in one piece of equipment.
Mm-hmm. And knowing that you travel the world quite regularly, what can you share any projects or types of projects where the MK6 is being deployed?
Yeah, sure. There's the biggest market currently we see, or the most agile market, is the US. With the FCC waivers, which have been just recently been awarded, there is a lot of momentum going after CV2X. However, because of this DSRC deployment from the earlier years, we have a high demand on dual mode equipment being used in order to have the transition from the DSRC technology towards the CV2X technology. So people are still operating DSRC fleets to a large scale, and they have the demand to have a technology in place which gives them the upgrade path without stopping current deployments and moving on into the next piece of a technology or a range of technology like CV2X.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned about the FCC and the current approval of waivers.
Yeah.
What are other market influences that are help supporting the rollout, the deployment of V2X devices and connecting roadways?
I think first of all that this more becomes now after the FCC decision, because the uncertainties are gone in terms of technology. So this was one of the showstoppers. And secondly, the expertise or the experiences people have gained with the former DSRC technology or the current DSRC technology is a big plus and advantage for V2X in general, because people have experienced how easy and how beneficial it is and affordable it is to deploy this technology by getting all the advantages in order to reduce fatalities, in order to optimize traffic flow, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Bernd. Paul, moving to you, as far as when we think about, we talk about the market transitioning, it's at an inflection point. What are the factors that really support that we're now at the start of the growth phase?
I think a number of factors. We're seeing some significant deployments happening, both in Europe with C-Roads projects, plus in the US, some large deployments happening with departments of transport's deployments of infrastructure, that is. But that comes coupled with a real uptick in activity from the OEMs. So we've now got production vehicles on the road, particularly in Europe. So there's now currently, with VW, they have more than 1.3 million vehicles on the roads in Europe. So that's happening. But also other OEMs have got plans to be in production, in the 2024, 2025 timeframe. And so, we're seeing, more activity in that space in the last 12 months than we have for many years. So I think those two combined are really, sort of starting to make it, genuinely feel like we're at a tipping point for the V2X market.
Mm-hmm. And thinking about the automotive manufacturers, there's VW have been kind of a key lead in what they've been doing with production of the Golf 8 and all the platforms associated there. But knowing there's been a lot of activity of late, quantifying kind of how many RFI and RFQs that have been in the marketplace in the last 6 months, is that something that you can comment on?
There's a dozen or more of those RFQs are out there, and so I'd say every major OEM has got concrete plans now for going into production. So it's not so much a matter of if, it's now a matter of when.
Exactly. With the industry gaining momentum, what would be the advice that you would give to cities on who want to start with their strategy and connecting their roadways and thinking about the effect with vehicles that are connected? What would be your advice to them, and how can Codha support them?
Yeah, I think I think the key is get infrastructure deployed. And a sticking point for a long time now has been this question about the technology. Is it going to be DSRC? Is it going to be CV2X? I think those questions are largely resolved. But the fact is, with platforms like the MK6, which can do either, it's a risk-free deployment model. So if whichever way it eventually goes, the MK6 can support that. And the other key thing is focus on a small number of initial applications which are key for you. And what we're seeing in a lot of jurisdictions, that's things like transit signal priority, because and also emergency vehicle preemption. There are a couple of simple applications, and because generally speaking, the departments of transport have control then of the infrastructure and the fleet, or at least have close relationships with the fleet operators, that becomes a fantastic sort of like launch of the product and the infrastructure. So then you're getting immediate value from the deployment, and you can you can add on further applications as the production vehicles get onto the road. At a later date, you can start adding in new applications to support those. It just becomes more like software upgrades at that point.
Okay, excellent. Bern, is there anything you want to add to that as far as advice to DOTs, cities wanting to think about their own strategies moving forward?
Yeah, there's one key advice: start now. Don't delay it. Don't push it out because we see OEMs, as Paul has said, are up and running. They're going in production within the next couple of years. For those who haven't yet been deploying V2X technology, for those who have thought about it, should we do it or not, just do it now. It takes time to get it deployed, to get it installed. It takes time to find the right way to access and process the data, because you will get a lot of data being generated by like a fleet operators. And then you have to make sure that you can use those data in a proper way, in an efficient way, in a supportive way. So the key advice is start now.
Okay, perfect. Then a question to both of you. I'll probably start with you, Bern. What would be your prediction for the near term, for the next 1 to 2 years? What do you think we'll see in the marketplace?
I think the major trend or the major activities are around the OEM deployments. I mean, the infrastructure in most countries, in those countries who've started with DSRC technology, it's pretty mature. You have a good coverage across the regions. There are still several white spots which needs to be covered and needs to be supported with V2X technology. But I think they need to be started now to be deployed, and then you see the OEMs coming in, and they are relying on services, not just only services between vehicle, but also services between vehicle and the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Paul?
Yes, I think it's going to be, as I said, those. It's almost. People talk about day one applications, but the day one applications, in some ways, are still a couple of years away, because they reliant largely on a reasonable deployment of infrastructure and production vehicles. I think where we are at the moment is almost a day 0.5. So it's those initial deployments of infrastructure at key intersections, along with a fleet that can make use of them.
Yeah, and focus on applications with that immediate value.
Yeah. And I think, as I said before, don't wait, because a lot of arguments always, the technology, the standards are still unknown. But I think things are so mature at the moment. That's just a software upgrade path. You got to get the challenging part is to get the hardware deployed. Well, get it deployed and worry about the software later.
Perfect. Okay, thank you both. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we close up?
I think what we've just mentioned earlier, it's important to put all the acts together right now and make sure that you start your if you are not at that stage already, thinking about what V2X technology can really brings you, what value adds it to your own, mainly mobility issues or transportation issues you may facing, because there is much more than just safety, where V2X can sort out and support and help you sorting out your daily issues you may have.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Bernd. Thank you, Paul. And thank you, everyone, for joining another Cohda Wireless podcast.